95. Between local lines, notes from the Emirate.
Notes from the Emirate, indeed, celebrating all things artwork, celebrating all things exhibition. If you haven't had any plans of the weekend, then this is the place to be for sure. Maraya Arts Centre, where you can catch the exhibition of Zahra Mahmood, who hails from Pakistan, and this is her first, as they describe it as, institutional solo exhibition in the Emirates of Sharjah and here in the United Arab Emirates as well. So she's joined us here in the studio. The exhibition's called Towards Time. So let's welcome Zahra Mahmood. Very good morning. Hang on, there we go. We'll mic you up over there. Let's see. There we go. Morning, Zahra.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Now we've finally got you on the line as well, which is good. And talk to us about expectations. How's the exhibition been so far? We believe it started off last month, just towards the end of last month. How's it been going so far?
Well, it's been great. Mariah's been actively promoting the exhibition as well. Got a great turnout at the opening, and since then there's been, a small group of friends and colleagues showing up, and me giving personal tours. So it's been nice.
And what can the public expect to see from your work in Sharjah exactly?
So basically, the works that I'm showcasing are a body of work that I've done over the past 10 years. So this is almost like a mini survey reflecting on my practice, and it's really a journey of where I was a decade ago and at the juncture that I am now. So it allows the viewer to sort of connect the dots. And my focus with this exhibition has been about drawing, my relationship to the genre of drawing, and how it started off with something that was very conventional in terms of what drawings appear as. And as my journey progressed, and somewhere along the way, I had exposure to different experiences, such as recording my first studio album as I'm part of a music band. So that allowed me to look at the ephemeral nature of different forms of art. And I tried to sort of bring that into my practice and capture that transient nature. So a lot of the works begin with drawings in the form of acrylic washes on paper, and then as you proceed through the exhibition, then you see they take on a photographic nature, but the surfaces have changed as well. Light is filtering through the works, and in a way they are transient as a result. So they don't have a static appeal by the end of it.
Yeah, I find it really, really interesting what you did here, like going back into your works, putting it all together in this one context. How did you feel about it? Did it give you something about the passage of time? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Definitely. So, I mean, even the title, Towards Time, it was something that it took time to arrive at, no pun intended. But because there were 10 years involved, my inclination towards the notion of time, our understanding of time, does it have a chronological order? Especially during the lockdown, I felt like there were many instances where the concept of time just flattened out for me. Past, present, future seemed to have overlapped. And it was interesting to try and just translate that visually. And time and towards, like towards implies not being able to attain a particular destination or arriving at a particular point. It really hints at a journey. And it's a preposition that we've studied in English when we were little. It hints at you're inclined towards a particular direction. So I liked the sound of that, and I felt like the works itself are a journey. I didn't know 10 years ago where I would be headed. So it's my humble way of saying, this is my process. I don't know what I am here to achieve by the end of it, but this is my journey and I'm sharing it. And definitely the week before the exhibition, it was a bit emotionally intense because seeing it all come together, it was very special.
Which brings me to the next question. So this is obviously your first solo exhibition, and I'm just trying to see the amount of responsibility that you're carrying on your shoulders, this being your first solo exhibition. What kind of responsibility is it, and are you really overwhelmed by it?
Well, actually, it's my third. So
Oh,
I
it's your
had-
third?
No, yeah.
Okay.
And I had one in Spain many years ago, and I had one at Quadro Gallery in Dubai. In
But this is the
DIFC.
first time in Sharjah.
This is the first time in Sharjah.
Right.
There was a bit of weight with this one because it's 10 years of work, and how do you display
Oh,
them
10
together?
years.
And how do you tie them in
Yeah.
visually together? Because you want to make sure that while the visual language has changed considerably, you want to make sure there's some sense of cohesion between the works. So there was a lot of planning, a lot of thought that went into it, and a lot of reflection. So even during the process of submitting the works that I would like to showcase, I would always come back home and take notes and try and reflect on what am I really showcasing here, and trying to, piece them together and create a narrative. And it really worked. It all comes together at the end of it. And I realized that a lot of the works that we do, and we sort of put them aside and we think, I don't think I want to necessarily show that. It's so funny, if the moments are opportune, then you suddenly find that it has a relevance when you look at it in context. So I pulled out a lot of works that I didn't think I would ever display because it really tied in with where I am right now. So definitely it was a task that was quite enormous, but with the team at Maraya, it all came together. Yeah.
And could you elaborate on something you said earlier? Because you said it was quite emotional, putting it all together and having. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I think, as an artist, when you make a when you make a visual or you make an image, there's a lot of stuff that's going in there. A lot of things that people possibly don't know because they think that there's an academic training involved and you're really focusing on, things that are currently part of the relevant debate in art. But a lot of it comes from personal aspects like being a mother, being a sister, somebody who's in a domestic space, somebody who goes and invests herself in the teaching atmosphere. There's so many things that come in. News of friends passing away during the lockdown. How do you grieve, and respond to that? You're doing it in your personal space. Every little thing that you absorb, I think it subtly comes out in your artwork, and it really helps shape the works visually. So from that angle, just seeing that all the works come out of my personal space and seeing it in a formal setting, it was a bit surreal. It was just literally giving a bit of myself, and
It certainly is. I've got to ask you about this because there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of content creators, a lot of people who work in this field, and you've got a band Sail in tonight as
Yes.
well, which is really good to see. How much support does the entities such as Shuruk with the Maraya Arts Centre and the UAE Unlimited that you had the support of as well, how crucial has that been in supporting this 10 years of work?
Oh, I think it's been really very, very crucial. I think with the UAE Unlimited and, His Highness Sheikh Zayed being a patron, just the publicity that comes with it as well. And the fact that it's an annual affair, they select only 6 artists, there's a certain sense of, it already puts you on a platform. And then having catalogs being published, there are essays that are written about your work. To be able to do that on your own is always a bit tricky. So having that support is very, very important for artists. In this day and age in social media, there's so much that you need to share as well in terms of promotional material. And also with working with Maraya on that front has been quite helpful. They had very professional photographers and filmographers come and film me in my studio space and sort of set the tone for the exhibition by releasing the video a couple of days before, having teasers being created, and then doing workshops. So all of these sort of being tied with my exhibition, it just generates a sort of constant activity, which is great, and that it convinces people to want to come and see the space as well. There's an incentive there. So it's been very helpful.
And how has the reaction been from the public to your work?
Well, it only opened a week ago, but it's been fairly supportive. I have quite a few friends and colleagues who are out of town, so they're saying, once we're in town, we would love to see the show. And the fact that it's on for 4 months as well, it's a very nice duration to have people come and visit and check out the works.
Can we touch on that a little bit more as well?
Yeah.
Because obviously you've exhibited around the world. You've done this a million times before. What's it like having people engage with your work, especially something as vulnerable as your experience of time? Maybe you could tell us about what you've seen, how people reacted to your work, the conversation around it.
So I had one of my, when I was growing up, one of my idols, one of the people who actually inspired me to be an artist, she showed up at my opening.
Wow.
Her name is
Wow.
Tina Ahmed, and I even mentioned her in my video that's up in the exhibition space. And she, in her time as well, she had done a lot of work. And as a South Asian artist based in the UAE, she was somebody for me. Like, she made my dream attainable as a child growing up. Wow, I could be an artist. It's totally doable. So when she came to the opening, that was a fairly emotional experience for me. And she went through the works with me, and she said she enjoyed everything. She loved how the works asked the viewer to engage with drawings in a different way. We're normally very accustomed to seeing drawings by standing afar and looking at it from a normal eye level. Some of my works have been arranged in a way where you have to sort of bend down and really listen to them and look at them. And they were done purposefully. And some people, they told me it was an interesting way to sort of just like get your body moving into different positions and engaging with the works. But there was a purpose behind that as well, because a lot of the work that I capture, the images that are photographic in nature, the reflections of light that I'll see on the floor, on very mundane surfaces, and areas that are below the eye level, which normally go overlooked. So that was my way of asking the viewer to give it the attention that it deserves, because when I'm filming them, sometimes I'm in positions that are very compromising.
Yeah.
I'm breaking into a sweat and I'm filming them, but people would normally not pay attention to those. So people gave interesting
Yeah.
feedback. They said that it was fun to engage with the works in that particular manner.
Yeah. So what are you going to be tackling now moving forward as an artist? What are you trying to do in the present?
In the present, I'm trying to just soak in the work that I've put up in the
Yes.
show and really sort of
Yeah.
taking a break. Because especially during COVID, I was working nonstop. It was one of those things where, a lot of avenues had shut down for artists, the things had gone online. But for me, I just kept thinking, this is what's keeping me afloat mentally, emotionally as well. This is what I know what to do. This is my practice as well. So a lot of work was coming out, and now that it's up, I'm just enjoying the fact that they're up there. Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the exhibition in terms of timings, and do people have to have an entrance fee to come over to Maraya?
No, there's no entrance fee as such. People are able to go and visit it on weekends. I would have to double check if Sunday is a day off, but I know from 10 to 7 the gallery space is open.
Okay, and are you
Yeah.
going to be present there, or are there specific days that
Well,
you're there?
it's one of those things where if my friends reach out, we always coordinate.
Okay.
So anytime somebody wants to visit, I'm happy to give them a tour during the day.
Okay.
It's just about coordinating.
Right,
Yeah.
so, but for the time being, they can go and check it out
Oh,
between
for
those
sure,
timings.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'd like to conclude this discussion with the conversation on we could identify you as a UAE success story because you've grown up here. Talk to us about how art scene has evolved and the opportunities have evolved over the last 2 decades, because back in
Yeah.
the days it was either white collar work or
Yeah.
nothing else, and you couldn't, an artist nowadays has a golden visa, so it's a huge shift.
It's a huge shift, definitely. So, again, just looking at the weekly journal Young Times, that inspired me to
Okay.
want to continue art. I always chose it as an elective in school, but yes, there weren't that many universities there. AUD, in fact, I remember opened up while I was maybe in 11th or 10th grade, and it was just a very new university. But when I moved away and I went to pursue my undergraduate studies in Lahore, I had heard that there's a fair called Art Dubai, and that really attracted a lot of collectors and artists in the region. It was an opportunity to bring the regional artists, to the fore. So I think, because I teach as well, I always remind my students that the time that I grew up in and the time that you guys are growing up in is fairly different, and you have so much at your disposal now. NYUAD is opened up as well. Al Circle is such a great space for artists to come
Yeah.
together. They have their monthly, events. So, there's so much happening for artists.
Well, really looking forward to this as well, and all the very best with your exhibition and future
Thank you.
exhibitions, and 10 more years
Thank
as well,
you.
at least of this wonderful work. And thank you very much for joining us, Zahra Mahmood, and we look forward to hearing more about your exhibition.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're listening to Zahra Mahmood, who's got her work exhibited at the Maraya Arts Centre here in Sharjah as well. You're listening to the Morning Majlis.
If you liked this episode of the Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse.